Hi, my name is Brandon, and I'm an alcoholic and addict in recovery. Today, we're talking about Step 8. And Step 8 is where we make a list of all persons we have harmed and become willing to make amends to them all. This can be a scary step because this is not only where we're admitting where we hurt other people, but we're starting to think about actually going to them and talking about it, which is a little bit scary. A lot of us have done some things in the past that we're not proud of and that, quite frankly, may have been terrible things to other people. The idea of confronting other people with our amends about those things can be a scary thought. But one of the important lessons of Step 8 is that this step is not about doing that. It's about preparing for it. And one of the things that a lot of us in our addictions, one of the problems that we had is we got overwhelmed by things that hadn't happened yet. And instead of being in the moment and doing what we needed to do to get ready for those things, we thought too much about those things happening. And that created stress. It caused us to get overwhelmed and was often, at least for me, an excuse to go get drunk or stoned. In our recovery, what we want to do is focus more on the moment, on what we're having to do in the moment, and worry less about what things are going to look like in the future. And that's why preparation and the idea of preparation is an important part of Step 8. Because in Step 8, we're not doing the actual amends making. We're not talking to anybody. We're not even committing to talk to specific people. All we're doing in Step 8 is listing all of the people and, if necessary, places and things that we've harmed and becoming willing to make amends to them all. So that's what we need to focus on in this step. The actual act of making amends comes in Step 9. And also as part of Step 9, we're going to talk about where we actually need to talk to other people in order to make amends. Because this list that we make is not going to be the same exact people we talk to in Step 9. There may be people that we've harmed in the past that it is not appropriate for us to go back and talk to at this point in our recovery. And it may not be appropriate to talk to them ever. That's why it's important to focus on what Step 8 is asking us to do. And to get into that, I want to read what Tommy Rosen says about it in Recovery 2.0. He starts off by saying, in Step 4, we made our personal inventory, explored our resentments, and saw the places where we had harmed others. Now we make a list of those people whom we have harmed. We may be concerned about people's reactions when we come to actually make our amends to them, but that's a ninth step concern. In the spirit of remaining present and doing what is in front of us, we remind ourselves we're at the 8th step. We must remain focused on simply listing names and becoming willing. We must not allow fear of facing the amends process to derail our progress. So again, preparation, focusing on the task at hand, and also not worrying about fear. Going to make an amends to somebody can be an intimidating thing. Don't worry about that. You've got to face that fear. You've got to get over that fear, and you've got to lean on the right people for support in order to help you address that fear. And hopefully by this point in the process, you've got those people in the community around you, in your sponsor, and you've got some kind of relationship with a power greater than yourself that also helps you in this process. I want to read some of what he has to say about the key to Step 8. So he talks about preparation, and he says, prepare now to clear away the obstructions caused by past mistakes that resulted in harm to you or another. Return to the yogic principle of ahimsa, or non-harming. Step 8 is where we become fully present to our impact on others. This is a transformative process. True harmony comes when our perception of ourselves matches our actions and other people's perceptions of us. When these three things are in alignment, we find harmony in the three primary relationships: self, other, higher power. Observe what is without passing judgment on self or other. The energy of the past must be released. Whom have we harmed? Become willing to claim responsibility. Own your part in it all. Soon there will be freedom. So this is a really important part of step 8 for us to really think about what we have done that has impacted other people. And that's something that a lot of us in our addiction didn't pay too much mind to. We were selfish, self-serving, and all of our actions were built around the idea that we needed to get what we wanted out of life at the cost sometimes of other people's comfort, well-being, dignity. And a lot of times we would manipulate situations so that we could get what we thought we needed or just what we wanted at the expense of all sorts of different things that other people had to pay the price for. In recovery, what we start to look at is this step is a way for us to realize all the negative ways that we've impacted other people in the past. And that can be a little bit depressing to look at. If you're like me, I had a lot of people that I negatively impacted in my past. Some of those people, because of situations that are beyond my control, I can't ever make amends to in person. I will have to make what's called a living amends, where I change the way I'm living my life in order to try to make amends for what I did to those people. But that's part of the transformative process, is realizing how much of a negative impact we have had on others. Now, as far as I'm concerned, I've got two choices. I can either dwell on that and live in self-pity about what I've done in the past. Now, for me, that's not a choice. I can't do that because the program of the 12 steps has told me that I shouldn't be living in self-pity. Self-pity leads to resentment, and we all know where resentment gets us. So I've got to go with the other option, which is to change the way I'm living moving forward. Make amends where I can, and that's what will come up in step 9, but then to change the way I'm living moving forward. In order to change the way I'm living, I look back to the values that I mapped out in step 4, the values that I felt like were important for me to uphold as I move through life. And I take time every day to think about those and to really consider whether my actions and the impact I'm having on other people is in line with those values. It's a very different way to live, and it's something that we have to work at, and it doesn't mean that once you start to consider life in this way, you won't ever hurt anybody else. We're human beings. Sometimes our pride and selfishness get in the way, and we do hurt other people. But once you go through steps 8 and 9, you are going to be better equipped to make amends when you need to as things occur in life. And that's a really important part of this too, is that now I feel better equipped to, when I hurt somebody, go to them and say, I apologize for hurting you, and talking to them about what I'm going to do to ensure that that doesn't happen again, and what I can do to fix any problem that I caused. Because an amends is not the same as an apology, and we'll talk about that more tomorrow in step 9. But a lot of times an apology does come with an amends, and telling someone you're sorry and asking them what you can do to help fix the situation becomes an important part of our lives as we move forward in a life of recovery and leave behind the selfish life that really drove a lot of the way we treated other people in the past. Preparation, willingness, and an understanding of our impact on other people. That's the important part of step 8 to me. And when I take all of those things together, it becomes much easier to come up with what for me was a very lengthy list of people I had harmed in the past that I needed to consider when I was thinking about who I need to make amends to, and how to make those amends in step 9. More on that tomorrow. For today, have a good one, and I'll see you back here in the morning.